What kind of person do you picture if I ask you to think of an entrepreneur? What about a leader? Or maybe a job creator? Would any of them make the cut? What if I told you that we help 10 million young people achieve their goals every year, all over the world? And in turn, they create jobs and prosperity. JA has been preparing young people for successful careers since 1919. You find us all across the globe, in more than 100 countries. We're getting young people ready for work. And we get results. Our students go on to excel as professionals, taking control of their lives and careers, and some even succeed beyond their wildest dreams. JA students learn to do things like balancing a budget, negotiating deals, setting goals, and working in teams. It's hands-on learning from professionals with real-life work experience. All our programs are based in 3 fundamental principles: work readiness, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship. For example, in JA Company program, young people learn how to start and run a business. In JA Job Shadow, a student joins a mentor in a professional work setting. And students in the JA More Than Money program study the ins and outs of earning, spending, and saving. And these are only 3 of the more than 50 different programs that JA offers. Our network of staff, volunteers, and partner schools reaches young people all over the world, from major cities to rural communities and everywhere in between. And it works, because we pay attention to the needs in each region, and then we customize our programs so that JA students will be ready for the job markets they're about to enter. We even customize our own name. But at the end of the day, we're all one JA, JA Worldwide. And the core of our organization is the same everywhere. JA inspires and prepares young people to succeed in a global economy. Whoever they are, wherever they are, JA activates young people for the future of jobs.
Start by unmuting. Hello, good morning, and welcome to JA America's Inspiring Voices series. There are some great discussions already on YouTube, so make sure to check them all out if you haven't yet. We have a special treat for you. My name is Cecilia Tornaghi. I am the managing editor at America's Quarterly and a senior director of policy at the America Society Council of the Americas. And it is my privilege to moderate today's panel, which is in such a great and timely topic: how improving access to quality education, financial and digital inclusion can foster Latin America's inclusive economic growth. I'm almost biased to be here because I'm a fan of JA. I've volunteered in several events, and I think it's just such an important initiative. So especially now that our region is at a critical juncture. Let's see some numbers here. The ILO, the International Labor Organization, projects that some 110 million young people between 15 and 29 years old are affected by high unemployment, informality, or inactivity in the LAC, Latin America, Caribbean region. That is about 70% of the region's total youth population. And that also means almost a sixth of the total population of Latin America and the Caribbean. So it's a really large number of people who are left in the corners without really opportunities here to join the forces, to join the economic world in the region. These are astounding numbers that do require full attention. And of course, we have to remember that all of this is also set within a reality of low education attainment, which has been a hurdle for Latin America for a long time and got a lot worse during COVID. We had really, really difficult numbers that we're still struggling to get back from, and high informality. It's also astounding that we have in some countries the informality that can reach up to 70% of the population. We have just Uruguay and Chile staying at 25% or below. Informality is really a problem that affects our young people and their opportunities as well. During COVID, the dire cost of this dual reality became crystal clear to all of us. And we had a recent research developed by JA Americas and Manpower Group entitled Lack of Opportunities for Young People. 75% of youth in the Americas region are struggling to find a job. But after consulting more than 2,000 youth and also 200 plus companies, we saw that the research shows that there are urgent actions that can be taken, and these should be taken by private, public, and social sectors. There are low-hanging fruits, of course, like improving access to entrepreneurship, education, financial literacy, social finance, for example. And so we ask, would equity of access foster the region's economic recovery and contribute to more inclusive growth beyond just the human obligation of giving young people opportunity here? We could help the region as a whole. And we have a fantastic panel today that will discuss real action and solutions that can be taken. So let me welcome our panelists today. Driss Temsamani is joining us. Driss is Managing Director and a member of Citigroup Treasury and Trade Solutions Latin America Executive Committee, responsible for digital platforms, a very important sector right now at this point in the world. And as head of digital, Driss is responsible for a full range of banking platforms for cash management, liquidity investment services, working capital solutions, commercial cards, and trade that enable multinational corporations, financial institutions, and the public sector organizations to operate in this that is probably the most connected and efficient manner across 22 countries in Latin America. Driss holds an MBA from Columbus University and executive leadership education from Columbia University. He's a board member of Junior Achievement Americas, the U.S. State Department Global Entrepreneurship Program, and the Aspen Institute Partners for New Beginnings. So you see there that Driss is definitely increasingly interested in what we can do for young people. Sean, we have Sean Summers joining us as well. Sean is the CMO of Mercado Libre. He leads the company's regional marketing team, including both Mercado Libre and Mercado Pago, the business units, since 2018. And before this, Sean was a marketplace VP since 2012 and was in charge of marketing, sales, and product at a regional level. Previous to joining Mercado Libre, Sean worked as marketing director at Twinings in the United Kingdom and also held several positions at PepsiCo, being marketing director for Quaker and Tropicana at the moment he left. Sean has an administration degree at UCA University and holds an MBA at the Business School of Stanford. He's also a board member of JA Americas, another voice pushing young people forward here. And last but not least, for sure, Leo Martellotto. And Leo, who should be our host here today. Leo is the president of the Americas, the largest NGO in the region dedicated to activating youth for the jobs of the future. Leo leads this network that works every year with almost 30,000 volunteers and more than 2,000 companies and partners throughout the region. J Americas reaches nearly 1.5 million students in 25 countries each year in Latin America, Caribbean, and Canada. Leo is JA alumnus of Córdoba, graduated from the National University of Córdoba, Argentina, and recently graduated from the Harvard Business School Program for Leadership Development. And I can attest that volunteering for JA Americas is really fun also. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today and to share expertise, experience, and intelligence with us, and trying to find where and how we can reach those low-hanging fruit and make the the situation better for our kids. And first, let's take a quick round of where we stand here. And I'd like to start with you, Driss. Sort of like a quick lightning round here of where do you see the most urgent matter to be faced in the region right now for inclusion of youth? Driss, let's start with you.
No, thank you, Cecilia. And you start with some interesting and eye-opening numbers around inclusion and informality. I think that this is our biggest problem today, especially that we are dealing with two types of economies. We're dealing with the traditional economy and with the digital economy. Now, what these two economies are in an important crossroad, because in the digital economy, we're leaving behind billion of people, and most of them are youth, without access to this digital economy. For them to get access to the digital economy, they need to have a bank account. They need to be financially included. And now, unfortunately, as you said, 70% of our GDP in many cases is in the informal economy. We are the second region after sub-Saharan Africa with the largest informal economy in the world. And so this is key. And this is where the focus is and the most important topic, I believe, that we need to deal with.
Sean, let me get to you, because also, I mean, you definitely, Mercado Libre is probably the exponential garage to global company in Latin America, showing sort of like the way for young people as well. But tell us, where do you see, and as Driss puts there, this dual economy, what for you is the most urgent matter at this point? I'm afraid, are you on mute? Well, I think we lost Sean for some reason. Let me ask the people in the background if you guys can help us see what. Sean, can we hear you now? Oh. We cannot hear you. So while we try to troubleshoot, no, we still cannot hear you. Okay, so while maybe we do you want to try to connect and disconnect? I can go to Leo now and see if he Leo, let me go to you while Sean tries to clear the problem. So you guys are doing something incredible. I mean, I've been to trade fairs and to events with JA, and the enthusiasm is visible, but it's it's hard to reach. Also, we have a lot of kids who are not in school. So where do you see that is the most urgent problem right now?
So before the digital economy and young people becoming active in this digital economy, there is a matter of the digital education and how education becomes a key factor when reaching the kids, and technology as the mean and technology as the end. That study that you mentioned about that we did with Manpower, it also highlighted that young people is lacking the experience. So when they go to a job interview, for example, they say that the number one reason why they don't get that opportunity is because they just don't have the opportunity. So it is a matter of how we make sure that while they are being educated, we are exposing them to the right experiences that will not just bring the technical things, that will open their eyes in terms of the digital world out there, if they have access, but going to something much more critical, which is the self-efficacy. Once they get to the process of trying to get a job, it is late if they didn't build a self-efficacy. That is that power that human beings have, that have the conviction that dreams will become plans, and the plans will become results at the end. So for us, yes, there is a need for them to become active in the digital economy, but before is how digital will leverage the process of opening their eyes, developing their self-efficacy, and then adding all of the technical skills that they will need.
Yeah, keyword there, right? You have to have hope. You have to believe that there is a window for you, right? Now, Sean, let me get back to you now. Sean, so to you, what is the most urgent matter we're facing right now?
So hopefully this time the mic is going to work.
Perfect.
Brilliant. So I agree with Driss. I think that informality, it is a big issue in the region. It's a massive issue. But before that, I think education in general, it's one of our biggest opportunities, making sure that we keep improving the access to overall education and the quality of overall education to prepare our children to work, to be ready to join the workforce. And financial education is part of a very important pillar within that. So those two things combined with informality, I think that those are the challenges that we're facing or trying to address for the future.
And that brings to a question, education, right? So we did during the COVID an issue of the magazine on that, right? The issue of education. We had some numbers, crazy numbers, like 81% of 10-year-olds that couldn't read or write in a few countries. In the country that was doing the best was actually at 33%. So that's still like not really conducive to growth, right? So Driss, let me get back to you on this. So what do you think we need first? We need financial inclusion or quality education first? I mean, I know there's a chicken and egg situation here, but what, in your view, which one is it, and how how would technology and digital transformation processes be able to change the way we approach these efforts?
So look, I of course, education is key and it's fundamental, and it starts there, no? But of course, you can't talk about quality education before tackling the home environment as well, right? And the parenting for the children, and then you go back to the previous part, where basically what is the situation of that home where this child is growing, right? So if we start to tackle the access to opportunity, starting from home, starting from the parents having access to opportunities, that starts to empower their children. It starts to give their children the right environment for proper education, and that's where JA comes to play, and many others that start to help with that education process and access to opportunity. But the world is evolving, and evolving very fast, and is evolving not just for the youth that are trying to gain access to education and to opportunity. It's evolving around businesses, around government. Governments are trying to figure out this digital economy and how to tap into growth. Businesses are trying to tackle disruption and new type of competitions. Right, the education system is struggling and also trying to figure out how to evolve in the new world, right? And how to educate not only in new channels but also curriculum, right? What is the right curriculum? What is the right content now to teach these youth to be able to compete in the new economy, which is mostly a digital type of economy. So I think it's a multi-pronged approach, and I think it's a complex problem. Unfortunately, there are initiatives that are happening in parallel. So you see central banks, and you see the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Education now accepting this reality, all right, and tackling it, trying to figure out how to modernize the financial infrastructure, how to modernize or to provide more financial inclusion, things like open banking and central bank digital currencies, all trying to tackle this space of how to modernize and provide access to all. Of course, businesses are also reinventing themselves and trying to find new ways to access new clients and employing new labor force, right? You don't have to go through the traditional labor process to gain a job now. Just with your smartphone, and thanks to companies like Mercado Libre and Mercado Pago, now you can actually gain access to not only employment, but you can become an entrepreneur. You can have an electronic shop instead of having a physical one, which is very hard to do. And of course, you have organizations like Junior Achievement who are coming in also with tools and programs to help in this challenging environment.
And if anything, Latin America, creativity is not in default, right? I mean, I'm from the region. I've been covering the region for 25 years, and yes, the levels of informality are really high, but the creativity of those businesses are sometimes really mind-boggling. And if you add to that opportunity and access, what's there to stop us? And you have Sean, with Mercado Libre, you also have you kind of see the region at large also, because you have your business reaches areas that people forget even exist sometimes. So from there, do you see this transformation or this power of digital actually in action or moving in a certain way? Because of course, people need to have some kind of connection to reach you, right? To use your services as well. So how do you see that, and what could or can private sector companies such as your own support or give more access to people who are especially in areas with more difficulty to access technology?
We see a lot of appetite, from consumers and from entrepreneurs in the region, to go digital. In the case of consumers, both in the commerce business and in the fintech business, we see that we and other fintech companies and banks are providing new solutions that are easy to access. And basically what we're doing is saving them time. At a very basic level, we're giving them back time that they can use to go and develop and apply to other parts of their lives. And when it comes to merchants, to entrepreneurs, it's incredible, the appetite. We've seen the growth of our mobile point of sale business, street vendors, small entrepreneurs, everyone finding new ways. In the past, they could only accept cash, and now they are able to accept other means of payments, and they see that that's a driver of growth for their businesses. So I think that despite all the challenges that we have with education, the entrepreneurial spirit of the Latin American consumer and entrepreneur is always looking for new tools based on technology that are going to allow them to either get back time and be able to use it, in other ways to progress, but also, to develop their businesses. So I think that the conditions are there. As we keep innovating as an industry in general, I think that we're going to see very, very good progress in parallel to all the hard work that we have to do, which is, sort of a long-term investment on education.
And Leah, you also have visibility over, 25 countries and, with kids actually going there. So do you think that there is something missing for that? I mean, youth, they teach us how to use things. I call the young ones to ask how to solve a problem. But do you see them this second factor, which is not understanding, but it's actually having access, having the opportunity to even discover what digital has to offer to them? How do you see that, and within the initiatives that the kids at JA themselves are developing, do you see a push on that end to sort of increase this access and increase that to other children and to areas of more vulnerability?
Well, absolutely. I mean, technology is definitely allowing us to take the process of how we educate young people to the next level. Because if you think about the lack of the traditional system of education, it is definitely about not being interactive, not being fun at all, not allowing them to connect what they are learning to the real life. So they stay in the abstract world, and that's why they don't see any sense to go to school many times. And that's why we have such a high dropout rate. So when you allow the digital resources to become part of the mean, making the process of learning much more exciting and meaningful, like for example, having Sean Summers sit from Uruguay talking with youngsters in the favela in Rio de Janeiro, Sean telling them and becoming a role model, I mean, that's the power of technology, connecting dots that in the past was not possible. So also understanding that is not just about the mean and changing the how, but also about the end in terms of the economy of knowledge, making sure that they see that getting excited about using technology, it can also give them access to job opportunities in an economy that, for example, right now has 500,000 job positions open in the region, and that if we are not fast enough preparing the young people, those opportunities will lead to other regions that are doing a better job. So it is how we get them excited about that. And about what you mentioned about the creativeness of our entrepreneurs, it is also using technology to make sure they go from being entrepreneurs to survive to being entrepreneurs with an aspirational mindset. And that is something we are doing through technology. We are putting these tools in the students' hands, for example, how they can create apps to solve social issues. And they see what technology can do to concerns that they have, that they're sensitive about. And now, because they can use this technology, they can make a difference. That's how, we are connecting real life to what they can offer as young people.
We come to the reality on the ground, right? Driss, what is your opinion on the preparedness of the region in terms of, the infrastructure to speed up these processes?
The infrastructure is being upgraded at a rapid pace, and I'm only going to focus on the financial market infrastructure, which obviously does not operate without the telecommunication infrastructure and logistics and everything else. And what we are seeing is governments stepping up, governments across Latin America stepping up and realizing that the informal economy, which, just throw in some global numbers, is $25 trillion, right? And we said it's about 70% of the GDP, give or take, on an average. If you look at Latin America from one country to another one, pretty much about 70% of that, the GDP is in the informal economy, which that's a large opportunity. What does that mean? If you bring in the flows from the informal economy to the formal, and what's in the formal economy? Job opportunities, financial inclusion, prosperity, access to education, all the positives that we've been talking about. Those flows that when they come into the formal economy, they get converted in the banking system to deposits, and deposits become loans. And loans is what's needed for entrepreneurs to kickstart their business, to finance their operation, and to grow. It's also for consumers, very important for consumers to become middle class. And so there is a direct correlation between formal economy and prosperity and opportunity. And so governments are realizing that this is an opportunity for growth. It's not just quantitative easing and interest rates and the monetary policy. Now is the digital policy coming in to help with economic growth. But for that to happen, they have to upgrade the infrastructure. They have to modernize the financial market infrastructure, which obviously requires access to the internet, which requires more competitiveness, so forth, so on, right? It even requires a new form of money. And the digital economy is allergic to cash. It's actually, it goes in the opposite direction of cash usage, as Sean was talking about, right? And so all of this is a perfect storm, right? When governments realize, hey, we can grow the economy by upgrading the infrastructure and digitizing and providing more inclusion, then it becomes a replicator effect, because it helps with the education, it helps with entrepreneurship, and it helps with everything else that we've been discussing as far as accessing opportunity.
It's interesting because what you're saying sort of brings us to the dual economy and the issue of the education. There, we were talking earlier, when you have this dual economy, but you have an older cohort and generation who's actually calling the shots, and we need innovation. We see innovation happening in the private sector, and we just had our CEO talking about this the other day, that you need innovation coming in the political side as well, in politics, so that they can, this sight can be seen that we need to improve what we do. Sean, you think that you guys did at Mercado Libre, you decided to invest in financial education, financial inclusion of small and medium businesses. So tell us a little bit about the tools that you use to make it happen, and what is it, the circumstance of the infrastructure, the existing infrastructure, and the understanding of local leadership, especially, right? Because it's not only at a federal level that solves this problem, on the need to upgrade and to have better inclusion, also to for this financial inclusion, digital inclusion, be able to actually thrive.
Yeah, to Trish's point, I think that the infrastructure in general has improved a lot over the last 10, 15 years. It's a combination of public investment, but a lot of innovation and investment coming from the private sector, a lot. And I think one of the good things is the level of entrepreneurship and technological entrepreneurship that we've seen in the region over the last 5 or 10 years. I think that it's unique in our history. And that is part of what's driving the growth of this digital economy. What we see, as I said before, there's a lot of appetite from consumers, from entrepreneurs. As long as you create the products that are easy to access, is intuitive, easy to understand, people are in general looking for tools to provide them growth at an individual level or for the businesses. And what we see, we definitely have seen, in particular when we do our research, that when it comes to financial inclusion, there are two groups in particular that are doing worse than average. One is women and the other one is youth. On the youth side, clearly what we're working very, very closely with the Junior Achievement to provide the basic tools of financial education, so that they can see, to Driss's point, how these tools help them get them on track of progressing in their lives. And these are very small steps, but these are the necessary steps for our consumers in the region to get going in the right direction. And I would say on the women's side, we've been working very closely with a few organizations trying to provide the tools for women entrepreneurs to understand these tools, to better adopt them, tools that help them build businesses. As you mentioned, during the pandemic, we had a boom of small entrepreneurs moving in this area and adopting a lot of these tools. Clearly, as they try to take the small businesses into the next phase, things get more sophisticated, more complicated, and that's where we are trying to help women entrepreneurs, to scale their businesses.
And we also see that, especially during the pandemic, that at the end of the day, women took the brunt of raising the kids. We're just talking about, right, and of household and care as well. So and a lot of women-led households as well in Latin America, a very large cohort. So that's an important action there that also benefits youth. Leo, do you see that? I mean, because parents at the end of the day are paramount. Driss mentioned it earlier, right? I mean, parents need to be able to support their kids. And do you see that dialogue still happening in the region? Are parents involved in any shape or form in JA events or things of that sort? I mean, how do you see this relationship of kids actually still being able to have that support on the other end, while parents need to have, if you have 70% informality, that means you can't stay at home during COVID or things of that sort. So you kind of end up in a very confusing situation, especially for the children, and it goes into the hope if you don't have your parent at hope. So how do you see, and what are the initiatives that could help on that end of the spectrum to help the parents be able to support their kids?
Well, I very often I hear, don't expect the school to do what families can do back home. And this relates to transferring, values and principles that at least I was lucky enough to get it from my parents every day when I saw them acting, making decisions, and so on. We definitely see what is happening at home for these young people, where you have disaggregated families becoming an extra challenge, because they are definitely getting, in many cases, the wrong message. I mean, we see parents asking their kids to drop out from school to go at the age of 15 and work out there in the informal job to bring some money, We see that very often. We also see when you invest in the mothers at home, how that has a ripple positive effect when it comes to the criteria that a mother has on how to invest the money that is making out there. We also see a process that is being reverted, where we consider the young person becoming the agent of change back home. We see them, for example, learning financial education and then going back home and teaching their parents that they shouldn't be spending more than what they earn every month. That's why we are putting young people in the center, exposing them to the right questions so they are empowered, and then they can transfer that power everywhere. And if it relates to technology, you mentioned that. I mean, they are the one, helping maybe their mother who has a little shop at home selling tortillas, how they can now have a WhatsApp group in the neighborhood and sell their tortillas to the neighbors. So, I mean, yes, lack of parents being ready to transfer and allow young people to develop in the way we want is critical. But we are confident that when you expose young people to the right education experience, they become agents of change. And that's our fate.
If they have that window, right? So let's get that falls right into like the access and the benefits of generating free and accessible financial tools when it comes in terms of young people's development and growth. Well, Sean, let me start with you now on this one.
So interestingly, we over the last year we launched our Mercado Pago account for youth, in Argentina first and then in Brazil. And it's interesting to see the high adoption, and clearly here is a communication between parents and children. So it's for youth between 13 and 17 years old, and there has to be a connection. So the parents have to ask for their account. We have 700,000 accounts open in Argentina in less than a year. The youth, understanding the simplicity and the use of, managing their pocket money through these new tools, and also the discipline that comes from managing. To Leo's point, some of the basic lessons that, if you learn them soon enough, as you get into the workforce, they become part of how you think and how you manage your salaries. So, and clearly, helping the economy of the household by making it easier, for that interaction between parents and children. So I think that there's a lot of appetite. There's a lot of adoption for these tools and other innovations. Every time that we, as a company, as an industry, we innovate, we see lots of adoption. Consumers in Latin America are expecting that innovation from the industry. Everything that has to do with cryptos. We opened early this year in Brazil the possibility for any consumer to be able to buy, hold, or sell crypto, and millions of Brazilians decided to try it and hold it in very small amounts. So I think that technology allows some transactions that in the past had a very high fixed cost and made it that only a small part of the population was able to access them. Suddenly, we are all experimenting with these new financial services tools, and some of them we're going to adopt them for our day-to-day. Others are going to be part of our financial education. But definitely, they take us in the right direction.
Yeah, I'd say that trigonometry is useful for many people, but not all, while knowing how to handle your money is necessary for all of us. So definitely should come first lesson in school before trigonometry. Driss, do you want to weigh in that one? I mean, also like the main obstacles in the region for actually, making it accessible to everyone.
Yeah, so Latin America has the highest smartphone penetration in the world. I mean, we the last numbers we looked at was like 75%, and the average in the world is 53. So we have a region which adopts technology very fast, as Sean was saying, and where the smartphone was basically, your cell phone with internet access is not luxury. It's a necessity. It's regardless of the social class. And it's not because folks have internet plans. They basically top their phone up, right? So it's top ups, which is interesting because this also gives you a sense of the culture and the mindset of our people in the region. The Latin America population is used to convert hard cash, physical money, to value. When you go to a store and give them cash and they give you minutes, that's converting physical cash, hard money, to something that is digital. And that concept is a foundation for how we can move as a region to the next level of digital adoption, including education. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So beside what Sean is talking about, which has been the last mile, the critical last mile, which banks have not been able to do. And this is what companies like Mercado Pago are achieving, which is connecting that last mile, providing accounts and access to financial inclusion with the smartphone, right? But what we are seeing now is that the world is moving to a new era of the internet, right? We're moving to what's called Web 3.0, so forth, so on, which is going to take us out from this two-dimensional interaction, mostly mobile commerce, right? Mobile banking, mobile commerce, mobile education, everything is in the smartphone, to something a lot more augmented as a reality, right? A lot more augmented reality. So I think as Latin America is poised and is positioned as one of the highest region in digital adoption, when we start to look at augmented reality and virtual reality and how that starts to cross with the physical world, especially for education, I think that's going to open up a lot more opportunities for organizations like Junior Achievement Americas. A lot more opportunities for fintechs and big techs like Mercado Libre, Mercado Pago, and for banks like Citi, where now we're going to be able to enrich that experience. As Leo was saying, it's not about the content. The content itself is how you absorb that content, how interactive it is, right? Is the type of person you are, which you probably a lot more experiential. They'd like to experience what you're learning versus just reading about it. And so this is going to be a new opportunity that's opening up for us, which again will take us to that next level of adoption as well as access to opportunity.
Does it sort of like level the playing field for children who are not in urban centers or in general? Because there's a lot of creativity in rural and extended areas as well, which, there's a picture from during COVID that I thought was striking, with these three children, siblings, doing their homework up in the Andes somewhere, and they're holding their cell phone like up here trying to find some connection, and then doing their homework. And that was like, yeah, they can be in the Andes, and they don't need to move to Lima or whichever capital to be able to have opportunity and be creative. So, could Latin America leapfrog? Thinking of that opportunity and what you're saying, we go in Web3. Could we leapfrog? And can our youth, with despite these numbers that we're seeing now and this Nini situation, which sort of like speaks of hopelessness, can we leapfrog and can we bring these kids with us? Who wants to tackle that one? Leo, let's start with you.
We can and we will, based on experiences that we are already having, where we are seeing that when we connect all of the dots, the things we have been discussing, which is using technology as the mean, also as the end, giving them access to the economy of knowledge, going from young people that if we don't reach them, they will be recruited by a gang or things like that. We also see that it is not just about the digital, it's technology for reaching young people. And this means also bringing inclusive channels. We have cases, for example, in Costa Rica, where we are using radio as the mean to reach our young people. So it is technology, not just the digital. We see that it doesn't matter where the young people are coming from. It can be the most vulnerable background. When they see they have this, which is the digital resources, as something they can use to be empowered, and then they put all of the things that they have to offer the creativeness, the resilience, their potential to solve complex issues, because that's what young people do. When you give them the opportunity and then you give them technology, they will shine for sure. So the question is, will society as a whole, civil society, companies, governments, and so on, will give them the chance to show that power? That's the question. The more we do of that, the more we realize that they are just waiting for that opportunity to reach them. And examples as what we do with Citi Foundation of Mercado Libre is definitely telling us that it is possible.
And if I can add, I think my point of view would be slightly different, which is at a small scale, I think that we can do it. If we want to do it at scale, the 110 million youth that you mentioned, in your introduction, we need to work much closer with, with governments, with the ministries of education. But it's not just working closer. There needs to be a change in mindset. I think that schools should be a place where we not only provide them with the tools for today, it's also tools for tomorrow, and also provide youth with the idea that they can build their future. They're in control in their future, in control of their future. Give them a sense of there's something that it's worth working towards, and I think that we are missing that today. If I look at in general at the secondary education, at the educational systems, I don't think that there's a view or the kind of view looking into the future. There's too much focus on the problems of today and stuff that doesn't have to do with education and tools, but more with the bureaucracy. And I do think that in order to leapfrog as a region, we have the talent, we have the people, the youth in the region definitely want to leapfrog, but it's, the private sector, these initiatives like the ones that, we're talking here, but also with a change of mindset with the governments, because that's where you get really to scale. That's the only way to reach scale.
Yeah, and if I can share, let me put some numbers on what Sean just said and describe the economic impact and how the economic engine works through this model, right? So we did a study in Citi and simulated what happens if you provide financial inclusion to 220 million people, right? So 220 million people come in from the informal sector to the formal sector, right? Through what? Through access with wallets, virtual accounts, the Mercado Pago type of value proposition, right? These 220 million people bring with them from the informal economy $1 trillion. From the 25, which is we said that was the informal economy size, right? $1 trillion. $1 trillion once it comes into the formal sector brings $300 billion worth of savings to the private sector in retail, but also to the public sector from minting the cash and handling the cash, right? $300 billion of savings for the private and the public sector. That also creates about a $90 billion worth of credits of loans. So think about when you digitize when you provide access to the digital economy through businesses, private sector companies that provide these value propositions like Mercado Pago, you end up creating savings for the public sector. What can you do with $300 billion to help with education? What can you do? What can a private and public sector partnership do with $300 billion? So if you think about it, this is a circle, and yes, we can start talking just from the education and move upward, or we can talk about financial inclusion and move downward. Regardless, you end up with positive results. You end up with opportunities for social and economic improvements. And let me just close by saying, I was in Peru, and the Association of Banks shared with me a survey that they did with folks that were not financially included, but mostly from the rural areas. And what struck me, right, as a part of that survey, one line struck me. One of the responses, or the summary of the responses, was that these folks felt that they were not allowed to enter a branch of a bank. They were not allowed, and they did not have the privilege. So in many ways, their dignity is in the ground. I mean, they are completely invisible in society. They have no dignity. They feel like they're not allowed. So I think the social impact that we can have through inclusion and through education is tremendous, because you raise you're raising this part of the population which is invisible, as well as feels that doesn't have the rights, and they have no dignity. So the impact is tremendous once you get it done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was like Grameen Bank's founder, who said that, one of the issues with his bank, the people he was banking, was that they were shy and afraid of entering a bank, entering the actual branch, because they felt like they didn't belong there. So it's a powerful image, right? And so bringing these in, so let's do, like, we're almost running out of time. This conversation is so good. I could stay here for 5 more hours with you guys. This is fantastic. What do you think is more pressing, so that we can do this connection between private and sector? The private sector, is leading in a lot of areas and trying to push governments and the public sector to actually come behind and join. So what is the last incentive, and what is it that is more critical right now to bring this image, this window, this hope for these 110 million youth? Let me start with you, Sean.
So I think it's a combination, to Driss's point, between education and coming from the top. I think that governments need to keep creating conditions that promote innovation. The PIX example in Brazil of open banking, it's incredible. It's the most successful initiative probably in the world, more so than the one that we had with UDI in India. And I think that governments showing an approach, an open approach into innovation, and actually pushing for innovation in the sector, definitely it's one of the things. And the other one is on the education side, programs and institutions like Junior, we need to keep providing the tools and the inspiration for the youth to start with the aspiration to do something different with their lives, and make the first few steps. That's going to allow them to be better prepared to enter the workforce, and that creates sort of the virtuous cycle in which we can see progress over time. And we have to be patient, as everything with these things. You have to look at these things. Education in general, it's a decades-long sort of journey. It's not something where you can measure the return on investment, next month or next year.
Right. And I mentioned the private sector is leading the way, but also the third sector, right? The NGOs are really, civil society is being really very critical right now. So, Leo, so your final comment here on
yeah. So everybody speaks about collective impact and having different sectors sit at the table, designing, how we will change young people's life, giving them access and so on. What I would like to see changing is egos of the different sectors, because it is really tough, to allow conversations to build new scenarios when the NGOs like Junior Achievement might think they have the only solution that will save the world. And then when you go to the Minister of Education, they feel they have to solve the whole thing by their own, because otherwise they will lose political traction and so on. I think the good news now is that we have realized that there is no other way we will improve education for our young people if we don't work all together. Business innovation, when it is transferred to social impact, it becomes social innovation, and that is such a powerful thing. And we are seeing, for example, companies much more open than before to bring all of these products that they invested millions of dollars to develop for their clients, to now put it available to improve the young people life. And we also see Minister of Education saying, it is great that you have developed this platform, that it would have taken me many, many years, and maybe come up with a product that is not attractive at all, is not user-friendly, and now you are giving it to me for nothing in terms of money, but for value. And that's what we need to leverage. We are seeing a change, but again, ego is still sometimes blocking the path.
difficult one. Driss, you have the last word.
Absolutely. Look, I think we need to think of this opportunity and challenge in the same way we tackle climate issues, when we tackle pandemic and health issues. We can't confine ourselves into a country, into a region, and think we are going to be able to solve the problem and access the opportunity. The Junior Achievement is a global organization. Citi is a global organization. Mercado Libre, Mercado Pago is an organization, is a company which is a pan Latin America. And so we look at this as an opportunity in a much wider lens. And as Leo is saying, no one entity can solve it, right? If we tackle financial inclusion, it creates savings for the private and the public sector that can be invested into education, that can be invested into big ticket items that actually can return higher opportunities for the youth who end up becoming entrepreneurs, who go regional and global and end up changing the landscape of business. I mean, so, you know, we have examples, I'm not going to go cite names, but we have examples that business models that were born out of Peru that are becoming regional, business models that were born out of Mexico that are becoming global. And these were young entrepreneurs that had access to education, that had access to the right mentorship, that had access to the right educational system, and they were financially included and were able to prosper. So again, we got to widen, I agree with Leo and Sean, we got to widen our scope and our lens, to put egos aside and work together and collaborate to solve the problem.
Well said. Beautiful words. I hope we had a lot more time, because this is truly an inspiring conversation. This was really truly inspiring. I hope everybody makes sure to listen to the entire series, J America's Inspiring Voices. Be sure. And I want to thank you so much. It was such a privilege to sit with you today, Driss Temsamani, Sean Summers, Leo Martellotto. It was really a great conversation, and I hope everybody follows J Americas and J in general. I'm a big fan. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Pleasure.